Hi, this is Carlos Cousins, and the following part of algebra problem gives us an inequality making use of an absolute value sign. What you want to do with the absolute value is treat that part of the equation as though it were positive, even if it happens to be negative. So you can think of this holding true for some value of 2 minus 5x that evaluates to something less than or greater than both 3 and negative 3. Because it cannot be equal to 3, right? Because this whole thing cannot evaluate to something that equals 3, because then it would be less than or equal to 3 rather than just less than 3. Then in the same way, it cannot equal negative 3, because if it equals negative 3, that negative 3 will be treated as a positive, so that then once again we run into the same problem. It wouldn't be equal to 3, it has to be less than 3. So we can think of 2 minus 5x equaling 3 and negative 3 as us finding the parameters of where x can actually exist. That way we know what the interval of x is. So if it did evaluate to a positive 3, which it can't, right? X would have to equal a specific number. That is going to be impossible for this equation. So let's go ahead and try to see what number that is. So if we subtract 2 from both sides, we're going to end up with negative 5x equals 1, where x equals negative 1/5. And I did this by dividing both the negative 5x and the 1 by negative 5. So let's try out for which of these values we cannot have any solution. For which values, either greater than or negative or less than negative 1/5, do we not have any solution for x. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in a positive 1/5 to see if that works. So if we do 2 minus 5 times 1/5 is less than 3, we end up with 2 minus 1 is less than 3, which holds true. So it seems like values that are greater than negative 1/5 actually work, whereas values that are less than negative 1/5 won't work. And we can try that with another number, let's say negative 1. So 2 minus 5 times negative 1 is less than 3 is going to give us 2 minus a negative 5, or 7, is less than 3, which is not true. So anything for which we have a value of x that is less than negative 1/5 will not contain a solution for x that makes the inequality work. So answer choice C and answer choice B have it. Answer choice A says greater than negative 1/5, so that's wrong. Answer choice D says less than positive 1/5, so that's not correct. So now we're left between B and C. To figure the other value, we can think of 2 minus 5x as also having a limit at when 2 minus 5x equals negative 3, since that's the same thing as it equaling positive 3, and see what x equals then. So let's go ahead and try that. When we express it this way, we can subtract negative 2 from both sides and we end up with negative 5x equals negative 5, and we divide both sides by negative 5, we end up with x equals 1. And then we can see for which values this holds true or not, whether they're greater or less than 1. So let's go ahead and plug in 2 to see if that works with this equation. 2 minus 5 times 2, or 10, is less than 3. So 2 minus 10 is going to give me negative 8, and because of the absolute value, that's going to be a positive 8, and that is not less than 3. So something greater than 1 won't work. If you try something a little bit smaller, say 0, that's in between negative 1/5 and 1, that should work. And let's go ahead and try that out. 2 minus 0, 5 times 0 is 0, being less than 3. 2 is, in fact, less than 3. So it turns out answer choice B is correct here. Answer choice C does not include this x cannot be greater than 1 part. And this is the case because it says which of the intervals, which value of x does not contain any solution for x. So I hope that helped with this problem, and happy practicing.